The sky was dark, looked like all hope was gone. Tears were on the ground, our dreams were in the past. Then lo and behold, I like lo and behold, that's good. Up came a brand new show, Steve and Bethany, Hopecast. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Steve and Bethany, Hopecast. Steve and Bethany, Hopecast. Hope is here, hooray at last. This is Steve and Bethany, Hopecast.
It's episode 23.
Welcome into a very special edition of the Steve and Bethany's Hopecast. We're glad that you're here, glad that you're listening, watching, wherever, literally around the world that you are. We're glad that you're here. And today's episode is all about you asking us questions. We're calling it Ask Us Anything.
It's going to be a little lighter because, you know, the past couple weeks we've talked about some pretty serious topics.
Yeah.
We've talked about some serious things, and it got to feeling a little heavy where we thought, you know, we need to do something a little lighter. Let's take a break, and then we'll dive back into the serious stuff later.
And here's the thing, too. We thought maybe we'll get a couple of questions. We got tons of questions. We're so thankful that everybody has got in touch with us and asked their question. Now, here's the thing. We're not going to be able to answer every single one of them this week, so we're going to carry this over. We're going to do an Ask Us Anything maybe once a quarter.
Every now and then, just sprinkle it in.
Right. So here's the thing. If you asked us a question and we don't get to it this time, little grace, little mercy. Yeah. Don't be upset. Don't be mad. Just
we'll answer
breathe.
it eventually.
Yeah, we're going to answer it. We will answer it. We will answer it. So, but we're glad you're here. Before we get started with that, we want to talk about our cornhole game.
Yeah, we're kind of coming down to the wire on this contest.
We are. We're getting close to naming a winner, and it doesn't matter where you are in the sound of our voice. You could win a custom-made cornhole game. And again, some of you where you live may call it bago. Some of you maybe across the nations, you're not even sure what it is.
Not sure what it is.
Just Google it. Just throw it in the Google machine.
It's
You'll find out.
game.
It is a fun game, and one can be customized to however you like. If you're into a particular sports team, if you're into, whatever your hobby is. Here's some pictures if you're watching on YouTube. There's a family one there. I mean, if you wanted one with our faces,
we could do that.
We could do that.
It could be Steve's face on one, my face on the other.
And maybe like the whole be our mouth.
The mouth.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
We could, if that's what
totally
you want.
Up to you.
If that's what you want, our boys at Chipaway, they'll make it happen.
And we will provide the best selfies possible to put on that.
Absolutely, we will. So here's how you win this incredible grand prize. All you have to do is go to our website, steveandbethany.com. steveandbethany.com. You'll see it right there on the homepage. Click on it, fill out the form. Takes like 2 seconds, and boom, you're
registered.
You're registered. So get registered because, like I say, we are getting down to the wire. We're going to be giving this away in November, and depending on when November 2020.
Yeah,
so,
this year.
This year, right. I mean, this could be in the archive. Somebody could be,
yeah.
In 2025, hey, I wonder what Steve and Bethany were talking about.
And if you're watching it, you're 5 years late. It's okay, but you're 5 years late.
There you go.
I'm a little nervous about these questions. Should I be?
I think so. I mean, I didn't see all of them. I mean, I saw them, but I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention. I've skimmed. Great word.
You skimmed them.
I skimmed them. And look, some of them are wicked deep. Okay. I mean, they're spiritual. I mean, you got to have like John MacArthur and Tony Evans on speed dial for some of these.
Okay.
But some of them are fun too. So we thought instead of us reading the questions, we figured we would ask Jarvis Jr. if he's not. Can you wake him up over there? There he goes. Yeah. That was a joke.
He's out.
So he's going to ask us the questions that you sent in as we get started with our Ask Us Anything. So, okay, Jarvis, question number 1.
All right, Cody from Sherwood, Arkansas wants to know, what's the deal with corn nuts?
What is that?
What is the deal with corn nuts? Oh, that's Cody Price.
Oh,
that's
okay.
That's
an old coworker of ours.
Yeah.
He's a little smarty. I don't know what corn nuts are.
Well, corn nuts are just, I don't know what they really are either, but they're a little snack that you usually have with ball games and stuff. I mean, quote unquote bar food.
I've never had those.
Yeah. So that's a rollicking start. What's
ridiculous
next?
question.
All right. Jim from Colorado Springs, Colorado wants to know, What's your dream job with money not factoring in the answer and Christian radio does not count?
It's your dream job.
I think it'd be fun to be a travel writer. I think that would be really fun to
Travel writer. You mean write for travel magazines?
Well, there's a job where I saw this girl did it and I was like, oh, that looks really fun. She would literally just go around the world and stay in different hotels, try different restaurants, and then write an article based on that city. So like, hey, if you go to Paris, this is where you have to stay. These are the restaurants you have to go to. These are the fun sights to see, things like that. And that's what she would do. So she would travel a ton and see different, all kinds of places around the world and then stay in these cool hotels and try all these restaurants. So
how do you get paid for that though?
See, that's the thing. That's not part of the question. It doesn't matter. Right. But that job would be, I think, very fun. I would like that. What about you?
For me, I go back to when I was a little kid. One of my first loves was radio.
Yeah.
And I would listen to a guy named Brad Sham call Dallas Cowboys games. He's still doing it to this day. He's in like his 42nd year of calling the games. I want to be Brad Sham when I grow up.
All right.
And in fact, what's cool, he's actually a friend of mine on Facebook for whatever reason. He decided to be a friend of mine. And he's actually on the last couple of birthdays, wished me happy birthday.
Very nice.
Doesn't know me.
Doesn't know you.
Or anything. But
That's cool.
I did one time, I did say to him after he wished me happy birthday, I said, look, man, you're one of the biggest reasons I got into radio. How do you sleep at night? And he said, he said, no big deal. Very comfortably. Yeah, no big deal.
That's funny.
Which is just what he would say.
Yeah.
He's the great broadcaster. So I love Brad Sham.
So some kind of caller of all.
No, Dallas Cowboys.
Dallas Cowboys specifically.
Dallas Cowboys football and radio.
All
Absolutely.
Right.
All right. Kinsey, a first grader, wants to know, how do you know when Jesus is knocking on your heart?
Wow. That's a deep question from a first grader.
Good one.
Yeah, it's a very good one.
I think, I don't know. Maybe she doesn't know. Like, she's not talking specifically. Are we talking salvation? Are we talking about just to do something?
I don't know.
If we're talking about just to do something, I think Christians have the Holy Spirit, and I think you just feel a tug in your heart. It's more than just a nice thought of, I should go do that. I think it's a feeling of, I must do this. It's like it's a push, I think.
I think, since you took that side, I'll take the other, where if you're talking about salvation and wondering what it means to be saved, I think a lot of times you just have this feeling of understanding that something is in between you and God. And if you feel that kind of knowing and you feel that, hey, I need to make this right, it's okay not to have it right now.
Yeah.
It's okay. Just keep asking God, keep talking to God, keep on keeping on. I'm sure it sounds like your mom and dad are bringing you to church. Keep coming to church, keep coming to Sunday school, and God will reveal himself to you. Don't put I would say especially to a first grader, don't put pressure on yourself. Just continue on, and you'll know when the time is, I think.
Well, and I think too, the fact that she's asking that question means that he probably is.
I think so too.
I think that's where I would go with it.
So very nice, Kinsey. Thank you.
All right, Jared from BB, Arkansas. He wants to know your favorite sports teams in baseball, football, and basketball.
I have to think. Go first.
Well, football, I mean, I grew up born and raised in Louisiana, so
Yeah.
I'm an LSU Tigers guy. And obviously, we just talked a little bit earlier about the Dallas Cowboys, so I'm a big Cowboys fan. So baseball, I grew up in baseball watching the Atlanta Braves because they were about the only games you could get on television, and they were terrible. They stunk up the joint until the 90s. And then the 90s is when they got a bunch of good players and they started winning.
Yeah.
And winning and winning and winning. So I'm a Braves fan. So
Okay.
I like the Braves. And in basketball, I was, as a child of the 80s in basketball, you were either before Jordan. You were either.
Are we talking NBA or college?
Well, I would
Do what
guess
you want.
NBA.
Yeah.
I would
Okay.
guess NBA.
Okay.
Before Michael Jordan, you were either a Magic guy, Magic Johnson, or Larry Bird. I always drifted more toward Larry Bird. But when those guys kind of got older, I kind of gravitated for whatever reason, to David Robinson, who was a guy that played at Navy and fulfilled all of his naval stuff before coming to the NBA. He's a Hall of Famer. I mean, one of the best players of all time. And he was one of those guys who said his faith was the number one thing in his life. And he also said, basketball is just a part of my life. I'm not going to be doing this forever. And he was very, I mean, he's kind of a nerd. His loves and stuff were science and math. In fact, now, and he played for the San Antonio Spurs all of his career. And now he's created an academy for math and science and kids to be able to go and get a better education and in those specific areas of STEMs.
Very
STEM
cool.
Kind of stuff. So I like the Spurs.
Okay. Football, my parents were both born and raised in Nebraska. And so my whole entire family are huge Cornhusker fans. So football would definitely be the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Baseball, I kind of root for the Royals. I think it started because of I don't know. When the World Series was going on, they were kind of the underdogs. Right. And so I was going for the Royals. So I'll say that.
Yeah, you have a Kansas City hat.
I do have a Kansas City hat. I like Kansas City as a city. It's a great city. Yeah. And then basketball, I don't really care too much about basketball. I don't know if I should. I really don't. I don't know. When I was younger, when JJ Redick played at Duke, I thought he was cute. So
I guess
Duke.
That works. Okay.
I'll say that. That's not a good reason, but.
What else we got over there, Jar?
All right, we got one more, and it's from Dylan, who's a fourth grader, and he says, how do you know that the Bible we use is the actual Bible?
Wow.
Whoa.
That's a big question. That is a big question. Okay, especially for the New Testament. I mean, the New Testament was written by eyewitnesses, or at least eyewitnesses once removed. From so basically, you're talking about people like Luke or Mark, who went and interviewed the people that were actually eyewitnesses to it. So that's a whole reason for it. I mean, especially when you start talking about, the whole theme of the Bible about man being so depraved and not being anywhere close to God, and God having to come down and rescue man. That's so much different, and it kind of tells the whole story.
Yeah. I
don't know if this answers the question or not, but I really feel like a lot of that has to come by faith.
Yeah.
Well,
that's what I was going to say. I think, it's real because God makes it real to you, and because the faith element is there. Right.
And I think one other thing too is, okay, God spoke, according to the Bible, God spoke everything into existence. If he's that big of a God to be able to do that and create everything that's ever been created, I think he can protect a book that was written by dozens of different people at different times in history, all telling the same story, and preserve it to be accurate and to be exactly what he wants. I think he can handle that and weave that in and out and make sure that what we're reading today is exactly what he wants us to read.
Right. And because, it is breathed in by God, that's what the scripture says. I think that's something that, we have to hold on to, that it was inspired by God. It was breathed in by God. It's his word. And so his sovereignty is going to keep it intact where we can read it today, even though it was written thousands of years ago.
Yeah. And again, a lot of that is faith.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't have a more concrete answer than that, but Dylan, I hope that does it for you, man. I really do. Thank you for the question. Okay, we got to take a break, Jarvis. All right, we got to take a break, and
he nodded.
We'll have some more Ask Us Anything coming up.
Well, we will get back to answering the questions here in just a minute, but first we want to take a second and tell you all about Pat Davis. He's your healthplanman.com, sharing all about healthcare and kind of a way to think outside the box about it.
Yeah, because look, nobody likes talking about healthcare because a lot of times it just makes us angry. At least it does me.
Frustrating.
Because it is. I mean, how many times, especially if you do the finances in your house and you look at having to go to the doctor and versus, okay, here's what we pay every month, and then here's our deductible. It seems like we're paying every time we turn around.
Right.
You can't get ahead. I know that's a conversation I used to, it's not so much a conversation, it's just things I used to scream in the house, right? And, but that all changed when I got in contact with Pat Davis. And Pat has been a believer in us and in this podcast since day one. I mean, he really has. He jumped on the bandwagon to help us produce this and bring his message to you. Because look, healthcare is hard to wrap your mind around a lot of times because it's not tangible. But here's the thing. He can help you save money on your premiums, maybe even have no deductible, at least a low deductible, and no copays. Now, when you stop and really think about that, that's some pretty big advantages.
Yeah, and it almost seems too good to be true,
Right.
but it's not. It's just Pat's way of doing things that it's pretty countercultural to the rest of health insurance.
It is, because everybody else does the business the same way, so we get tricked into thinking, well, that's the only way to do it.
Right.
Really, there's not. And if you don't believe us or you don't think that that's right, just give him a few minutes. Just give him a few minutes to sit down with you and show you how he can save you some money and customize a plan just for you and your family, because that's the main thing Pat wants. Number one is a customized plan for your family, but number two, to put you in control of your health care and not the insurance company. So if that sounds good to you, he'll meet you on your timetable, whatever works for you. Just schedule a time. All you have to do is go to one place.
Yeah, yourhealthplanman.com. That's yourhealthplanman.com.
Okay, welcome back. Stephen Bethany's Hopecast rolling on here. Ask us anything. We've made it through round one.
Yeah, and now it's
So,
time for round two, answering more questions.
I feel like I need to go to the cut man like Rocky. Cut me, man. Cut
Seriously.
me. I feel like this has been tough.
I'm still a little nervous.
Yeah.
Okay, Jarvis Jr., hit us with more questions.
Yeah.
All right.
We're ready.
Jenny from Denver, Colorado. She wants to know, what has been the greatest challenge to your faith?
Wow.
Greatest challenge to faith. Well, okay. I have a story. I don't know that this is necessarily a challenge that was challenged, but it did solidify some stuff for me. I remember when my grandfather passed away, I had just become a Christian, and he was a really strong, solid Christian. And he got cancer, was diagnosed with like stage 4 almost immediately, and chose not to do radiation or any kind of therapy. Because again, this is back in the 80s. I don't know how much that really worked back then, or you know what I mean,
Yeah.
especially on stage 4 kind of stuff. So he decided he was just going to live out the rest of his days and just want to be as comfortable as possible. And so I remember him passing away, and me being new in the faith really kind of, it was really kind of a test. And I don't think I ever questioned, but I did. That did kind of make me feel like, what's up with this, And then, and I know some people don't, buy into this kind of thing or not, but I had a dream, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks after he died, I guess. I'm not sure exactly how long it was, but I just remember there was this like peaceful river or flowing stream. And I was on one side and he was off at an angle over here. And he just kind of made eye contact with me and then walked into the woods. And that's all I ever, and I woke up and I felt more at peace than I had been about it ever. So I feel like God used that dream to kind of assure me everything was okay. I don't know if that was necessarily the answer to the question, but it's kind of mine.
I think mine was probably, like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. I just went through a season of life, a few months where it was just like everything in my life changed. Just a ton of things shifted in my life, and good things, but it was change regardless. And so I was kind of struggling with adapting to the new normal, even though they were all good things. I was like, this is just very different. My life is different now. And really just struggled with kind of who I am, just my identity, things like that. And I think God used that really difficult season to change my perspective on who I am as a person. And really made me realize, I think I had my identity in a lot of other things. My identity is in Christ, and I always knew that, but like it was also in a bunch of other things. And I think God kind of slowly stripped those things away, where it really became more about my identity is solely in Christ and nothing else. And that's something I'm still learning and growing in, but that season was particularly helpful for me in just learning what that looks like, I think.
Very good. Okay. Before we get to our next question, I just want to remind everybody that is watching on Patreon, our aftercast, we're going to have a hot seat question. We like to do hot seat questions for all these Christian artists that join us.
Yeah.
So we're going to do a hot seat question for us. One, Not a multiple.
Just one.
We'll just do one. Okay, Jarvis Jr., what's next?
All right, Tori from Romance, Arkansas wants to know, what is your favorite holiday tradition?
Mine is probably from my childhood. I don't really do it now. I don't do it now anymore. But growing up, my siblings and I would sleep around the Christmas tree on Christmas Eve. We would camp
really?
out. Yeah, we would grab sleeping bags and a bunch of pillows, and we would all sleep
Make
underneath the
Santa
Christmas
Claus
tree.
tiptoe around?
Well, we didn't do Santa. I
Oh.
didn't grow up with Santa.
Oh.
Oh, gosh.
Man,
Sorry.
that kind of explains a lot, doesn't it, Jarvis? That kind of,
I
that
didn't
right
grow
there,
up.
I think right now we can just safely say, okay, the
That
dots have
explains
been
it.
connected a lot.
That's why you are
There you
how
go.
you are. Yeah.
So-
That's probably my favorite though. My siblings and I would camp out on Christmas Eve.
I tell you one that has really become my favorite. We've done it for the last 2 or 3 years. Is painting pumpkins right
fun.
before Halloween at my mother-in-law's house, and it's my kids and my niece and my nephew, and now my niece is married to her husband.
Yeah.
And my son's girlfriend will come over, and of course they don't like her coming over anyway because she's like crazy talented,
Yeah.
and she just makes these works of art that everybody's just like, holy cow!
They're like, all right,
You know,
dial down the talent.
Right. And
Yeah.
my wife paints some, and it's a cool little
That's
thing.
super fun.
And really, I don't participate a lot because mine looks like, I have a 6-year-old. Mine looks like the 6-year-old
Yeah.
had done it, So I just kind of step back, but I watch it and it's kind of cool. So I
That's
really
fun.
like that.
I like
so I
that.
think that's fun. What's next?
All right, this is a good one. Paul from Parkland, Florida. He wants to know, during this pandemic, if I'm a believer, how do I overcome the concerns of contracting COVID-19?
Wow. I think it's about just understanding that your days are in God's hands, and that as scary and as real as COVID-19 is, it's legit. It is a pandemic. It's happening. And unfortunately, people have passed away from it. I think it's understanding that God knows your days and he knows the plan for your life. And so if it's in God's will for you to contract COVID-19, you will. And if you don't, that's not in his plan. I think it's just understanding that you need to take precautions and take care of yourself and be smart and just be wise in that way. But it's really under God's authority and his sovereignty that way.
Yeah. And I think that's the main key is do everything you can.
Yeah, of course.
And don't be
Don't be
silly.
reckless, yeah.
Don't be silly with it. I mean, look, I know there's that raging debate whether masks really work or not, but I think masks coupled with social distancing has proven to work a little bit,
For sure.
So do what you can. But again, the good news is that COVID-19, for the most part, unless you have some underlying conditions, it's not something to be very fearful of.
Mhm.
I mean, it's bad. And
Yeah.
I've known people that have, had it, and they said it was like the flu on steroids for, like 6 weeks. It had me knocked for a loop, but they recovered. And so I think, you could take solace in that fact that there's a recovery rate is extremely high. But just be smart. God gave us a brain,
Right.
use it.
Yeah, and
don't cough on anybody. Don't let it, don't, if you're feeling bad. I mean, look, and this is something that I always wrestled with. I guess maybe it's being a man, whatever, but if you feel bad, stay home.
Right.
Well, come on. You can't always do that. And in this day and age, I think you have to take that a little bit more serious, because I can't let a cold stop me. I got bills to pay. I got to eat.
Yeah.
Got
to keep the lights on.
Right, exactly. So, but I think in this day and age, maybe, okay, hey, I'm not feeling so good today.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I ought to gear it down and just take some meds and relax today so I can hit it tomorrow.
Yeah, it's about, I think, just being smart, taking all the precautions that you can and that you need to, but also understanding that your life is completely in the Lord's hands. Yeah.
What's next?
All right, we got 2 more. This next one's from Richard from North Little Rock, Arkansas. He said, would you rather have a pet flamingo or a pet lemur?
Flamingo. Easy.
And I'll ask
guess.
why.
And he asked why.
And
No,
why?
I'll ask why.
Oh, okay.
Jarvis Jr. is going to ask why. Why?
I think they're prettier. They seem pretty low maintenance. Like, I feel like you just kind of leave them and they handle themselves. So
I would,
don't know.
I would tend to agree with you, but did you know that there's more plastic flamingos
Than
in
real
the States than
flamingos?
real flamingos?
I did know that. I think
about
that's
that?
solely because of Vegas. I think if Las Vegas didn't exist, that stat wouldn't be true.
That may be.
Or Florida.
I don't know. I want to take the other side just because you took flamingo, but a lemur seems like it could be.
It seems a little sketchy.
Yeah, it could have an attitude
That's
and
what
be
I'm
a lot of maintenance.
And I don't know really how closely related like lemurs are to ferrets, but
but there you go.
Well, listen, but like a girl that I went to church with when I was a kid, she had I almost said two lemurs. She had two ferrets, and they were disgusting. They stunk. They would like crawl all over the place, and they grossed me out. And so I think if a lemur is anything close to a ferret at all in temperament, I wouldn't want it.
Well, now, the only one I would want would be like King Julian from Madagascar.
Yeah. That's what I have in my head when I think of lemurs, though, is Madagascar.
I know. The New York Giants. I mean, that's a terrible impression, but
Yeah.
I loved King Julian. But outside of him,
I'm sticking with the flamingo.
I think I'm going flamingo too. What's next?
All right, Sean from Bartsville, Oklahoma wants to know if you could be anybody in history, who would you be and why?
Whoa.
Anybody in history? Wow.
I feel like a lot of the big deals in history, though, met horrible ends.
Yeah, well.
Like they died in horrible ways. Like the
Well.
really incredible people of history didn't have great ends, but I don't know.
I don't know either.
Um,
I would think, I don't know that I would want to be that person.
Yeah.
I think I would like to go back in time and like be in the crowd around somebody.
oh,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like for instance, well, obviously, it'd be cool to watch Jesus do Jesus things.
Yes.
But I think also, I think it would be cool. There's different parts in history that I think is really fascinating and interesting. I think it would be neat to go back to like, the 1800s, and seeing how our country, went through all that stuff, and kind of seeing how Abraham Lincoln
That's true.
navigated through everything.
Yeah.
Even though he wasn't perfect in doing everything,
Yeah.
he did stand for.
You
what
could have
was
been at the
right.
theater and warned him or something.
Right. Well, by the way,
Could have
did you
done
know there's,
something.
and I don't know if this is urban legend or not, but they say, I read somewhere not too long ago that his bodyguard went to go have a nip of something outside.
What?
And then that's what led John Wilkes Booth shoot him. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. That doesn't sound
That
right.
seems right, though.
I don't know.
I feel like a lot of horrible things that happened in history happened because somebody slipped up.
Oh, and another presidential one I think would be fun was when Andrew Jackson was put into the White House, and he's a hillbilly from Tennessee, and then all the backwoods people, they treated the White House like a trailer park out in Saline County.
Seriously?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a famous story. Yeah.
Oh, no, I haven't
In
heard
fact,
that.
the only way to get the people out of the White House from destroying everything,
Yeah.
they had to put whiskey in these great big containers. They called it punch, but it was infused with whiskey.
Punch.
Yeah, exactly. Air quote punch.
Punch.
To get them outside so they could leave. Andrew Jackson even had to dive through one of the White House windows. This is a famous story. You don't know this story?
No.
You got to Google it. Google
Okay.
it.
Well, okay. So for my answer, I think I would, okay. If we're going to do like a biblical character, I think Esther would be incredible just because you think about the courage that it took and just her role and amazing. So I think probably Esther. More of like a current historical figure. I think Martha Washington. I think it'd be fun to like learn about just how the country started, the first president, just look at all the decisions that he made and the things that started this country. I think that would just be interesting.
All right, very nice.
Not saying that I would want to be married to George Washington. He had wooden teeth. So not saying that.
Well,
Kinda
he
weird.
wasn't the only one.
I just don't think that would be nice to look at the dinner table.
You never know. Well, hey,
Bless his heart. It's the best he could do.
Don't knock it till you try it. I'm just saying. All right. Anything else? Is that it? Are we done?
We're on to the aftercast.
We're on to the aftercast. Okay, before we get there, we want to say thank you guys for watching. We really appreciate you being here. And coming up next week, awesome episode because we are going to be joined by
Michael Tate, baby.
Yes. Hey, can you get up from your position and go get that book?
I can.
Jarvis Jr.'s got it. There you go. All right, here's the deal. We have got a Newsboys autographed book Newsboys United. This is including Peter
OG
Furler,
members.
Yeah, and Phil Joel. Right.
There's Michael Tate there at the end.
So we have this in celebration of Michael being on our episode next week. We're going to give this away as kind of a just a lightning round, kind of just showing up and you win kind of thing. And we'll have details on how to do that for you next week.
In the next episode.
In the next episode, right.
It was a super fun interview. We're really excited about it.
Absolutely. We really are. Okay. Again, we can't thank you enough. And if we didn't get to your questions, we will next time. We're going to do it. This was fun.
I enjoyed this.
We're going to do another Ask Us Anything really soon. So we'll answer your question then.
Yeah.
All right. Good night, Olive Branch.